You've ever seen a job posting like looking for a junior developer with 5+ years of experience in AWS, Kubernetes, Java, C, C sharp, backend, front end, AI, yada, yada, yada? If you haven't, you're probably applying to your first position, and we're going to talk about how to get your first interview in this video. Stick around. So, I've been getting this question fairly frequently, and I figured I'd address it in the video. When I graduated my undergrad degree in computer science, I applied to over 100 companies and only landed 6 interviews. And it could be really discouraging at times. So, I figured I'd make a video highlighting some of the key things that I did and some of my friends and peers did to actually land that initial interview. I'm strictly going to keep it to tips and tricks because I don't want this video to be more than an hour long. We're not going to talk about the interview process in any way, strictly focusing on landing your first interview and avoiding things like behavioral questions and strictly focusing on getting your foot in the door. Point number one, you don't actually need a college degree to get an interview. It's a lot easier if you have a college degree, as it's easier to validate that you are a potential prospect that can actually benefit the company, but you don't actually need a college degree. So if you're going an unorthodox route, like you're self-taught, or maybe you graduated a boot camp, you could still land positions this way. So don't let it be discouraging that people are telling you that you can't. It is just a little more difficult because it takes a lot more self-discipline, which leads me to the point of you need strong fundamentals in order to actually land the interview. When I say strong fundamentals, you could validate that you have strong fundamentals by going onto things like LeetCode or HackerRank and saying that you're able to professionally solve the problems that are put in front of you. And if you're able to professionally solve them and even talk through them while you're solving them, that is the number one thing in a technical interview. So going that route is totally feasible, totally possible, just a lot harder. And if you don't have the fundamentals, I would highly recommend viewing things like Coursera or Codecademy and selecting courses on topics that you think would be really interesting to you to study in. Let's say you want to be a full stack developer. Okay, let's start looking into learning things like Django, frameworks like Flask, and reading about that, or HTML and CSS, and picking courses like that to review, and then getting your foot in the door before you even try to interview, because you'll be wasting both your own time as well as the business's time. Okay, let's assume that you've got your fundamentals down and you've been applying to positions, but nobody's taking the bait. Let's talk about things that could actually help you stand out as a potential prospect. A huge thing that could benefit you, and I've seen this done countless times with friends and peers. I personally didn't take this route, but I have seen it done successfully, is contributing to open source. So let's say you become extremely proficient in a language like Python. Okay, now let's start looking into niche topics and looking into domains that you want to participate in. Let's say you want to do AI. Start looking at open source platforms like TensorFlow or OpenCV, or let's say you want to do full stack development. Let's start looking into backend frameworks and front end frameworks in Python. Let's say you want to look at Django, things like this. Start contributing to open source platforms, and this will help you stand out as a candidate extremely well because you're actually providing real world services, and it's really well taken by the community. Oftentimes, I've actually seen individuals land interviews directly through their open source contributions. So individuals will reach out and say, hey, I've noticed you're a big contributor in this community. We'd love for you to work with our position because we work with this framework quite a lot and would love for the opportunity for you to have worked with us. Putting yourself in a position where you stand out by actually contributing to projects that are shared by the community is huge. Open source contribution is number 2. Number 3 is personal projects. Why would a company hire you if you have zero experience of software or product development? So you got to ask yourself, what's making me stand out? And if you can't answer that question, if you can't provide any examples in your portfolio, then maybe it's time to build up your resume and build up the projects that are going to help you stand out as a prospect. An idea that one of my friends gave me that I thought was wonderful was he was posting his services, free website design and free website production, on Craigslist, and building his own portfolio as a free freelancer. Literally not costing a dime, but he was getting his foot in the door because there was zero risk to the person that was actually requesting the service. So building projects like that, or even diving into projects that you think are really niche and really fun that you might have interest in, being able to take things that you might be able to use and enjoy yourself while you're doing it. Because if you're not enjoying yourself while you're making personal projects, why do you think you're going to enjoy yourself when you're working for somebody, right? So you need to not only be able to display your skills through your projects, you also actually have to have a passion for what you're doing. And the best way to do that, I think, is through your projects. If you're able to develop whatever you want, you could have fun with it, right? So build up projects and start gaining that experience on something that can make you stand out. Because if you just know how to solve HackerRank problems in LeetCode, that's not enough. You actually need to have some kind of fundamental experience in order for a company to actually say, I want to hire you, or I want to give this guy a chance to even be hired. Okay, the fourth point is a little bit of tough love. Just because you just graduated undergrad or grad school, or you just graduated a boot camp, don't feel entitled to a position, right? Nobody's obligated to give you anything. So remember, you have to look at it from the business perspective. What can this individual provide me for the money I'm paying them? So think about it from the employer side. Stop looking at it from the, I just finished this and this program, I just paid this and this amount of money, I'm entitled to a position. So let's say you've been going through these steps and applying to these positions, but you're not getting any interviews. At this point, I'd say maybe put your ego away and try to apply to positions that are lower than your current education level, right? So if you graduated with a 4-year degree, you might be looking for an entry position. Well, if you're not getting entry position interviews, why don't you start looking for internships? Apply for internships. They don't have to be paid. Get your foot in the door. Once you actually start working, start learning what the real world demands of you, you'll be able to substantially get more interviews after that process. And who knows, a lot of the time, if you do a good job at your internships, at your entry level positions, you're able to continue on with that company into higher ranks and actually become salaried or make more money that is respective of your actual education level, right? Because education level doesn't actually signify your work value. That's the whole point of, you don't actually need a college degree in order to be successful in the software engineering, software development world. So remember that. Don't be entitled, put your ego away, and if you have to actually step one level down, do it and get your foot in the door, because that's going to set you up for a lot more success than not having any experience at all. The fifth and final thing I'd like to say is leverage your communities, meaning leverage your clubs, leverage your network. Let's say you go to conferences or you go to career fairs. Leverage all of that, because that's how you could actually network with people and get that pre-interview, which is what gets you into the door. If people could recognize your talents by you having the opportunity to talk to them and talk about the value you could provide them, it's extremely beneficial to do it in person, because submitting a resume on an online application just isn't the same as talking to someone in person. Let's say you're a veteran. Let's say you're in reserves. Well, if you're in the military, why aren't you applying to places that are contractors? Why aren't you applying to positions that have a large military community, right? Apply to your Raytheons, your Lockheed Martins, your Booz Allens. All of those types of companies hire veterans at a really high rate, right? And there are plenty of opportunities like that where you could leverage your networks in order to be able to better prospect yourself when applying. And another tip that I really like is find alumni, find friends that graduated or that are in working positions. Find them on LinkedIn, message them, ask them if they love their job, ask them what they do on a day-to-day basis. A lot of people are willing to respond and help, especially if you're close with them in some way or you've been an acquaintance. It's it's beneficial to try to expand your network. And even if it's a dead end, at least you have potential prospects in the future that you can contact. So go to your career fairs, go to the conferences, reach out on LinkedIn, build your network, leverage your communities, like if you're military, right? All of these things are what are going to get you into the interview process. Hopefully this video helped out. If you liked what you saw, leave a comment down below, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.